Hi, my name is Glenn Murphy. I am one of two presenters of this video series on how to market and harvest your woodlot for profit. My co-presenter is Dr. Reen Visser. Together, Reen and I have close to 80 years of experience studying and reporting on forest harvesting operations around the world. In North and South America, in Europe and Africa, and in Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific. In video 2, we will look at how important the woodlot resource is for New Zealand, and then we will look at who are the buyers and the sellers. If a woodlot is defined as being a plantation of less than 500 hectares, then woodlots account for about 27% of the total forest plantation area in New Zealand. Over 85% of these woodlots are less than 40 hectares in area. A large number of the woodlots were established during the mid-1990s after timber prices around the world spiked. Many of these woodlots are now being harvested or being considered for harvest. Woodlots currently account for about 40% of New Zealand's total harvest volume. If forestry remains attractive as a means of diversifying farm income and provides a way to help offset farm carbon emissions, the importance of woodlots to the national wood supply may increase further. The woodlots are located on more than 11,000 land holdings scattered around New Zealand. About 2/3 of the total woodlot area is located in the North Island and about 1/3 in the South Island. Radiata pine accounts for 90% of the total forest resource, and Douglas fir accounts for 6% of the resource. The remaining 4% is distributed between eucalypts, cypresses, other softwoods, and other hardwoods. Most forest growers in New Zealand will be able to deliver their logs to both domestic markets, that is New Zealand regional sawmillers and other wood processors, and to export markets via the closest export port. Buyers of logs destined for export markets are usually representatives of the larger forest companies or log brokers, whereas a forest owner or forest consultant can deal directly with domestic processing plants. Let's take a moment to look at the wood flow for the 2019 year. This will give a good indication of the potential importance of different market segments for the wood produced from woodlots. In 2019, the total volume harvested from plantation forests was about 36 million cubic metres. More than 60% of the total harvest volume was exported as logs, and most of the export volume was sent to China. South Korea, India, and Japan were other significant destinations for export logs. A bit less than 40% of the total harvest volume was sent to wood processors within New Zealand. Pulp logs account for 13% of the total volume. Most of the pulp logs are processed within New Zealand. Some, about 1% of total volume, are converted to chips at a chip export facility and then sent overseas. A quarter of the total harvest is sent to sawmill and veneer mills within New Zealand. These logs are converted to sawn timber and other products. The remainder is chipped and sent to fibre mills. In many regions, forest growers will maximise their financial return by segregating logs into both domestic and export grades. To do this successfully involves higher costs, greater skill on the part of the logging contractor, good supervision of the logging and cartage operation, and good knowledge of all log markets. Let's look at domestic markets first. There are currently about 60 mills located around New Zealand. About 2/3 of these are located in the North Island and 1/3 in the South Island. Because of the cost of log transportation, the domestic market for most woodlot owners will generally consist of sawmills and veneer mills, fibre processing plants and roundwood processors in the immediate region, that is within about 200 kilometres. In general, only the highest value log products, for example veneer logs, will be able to bear the cost of long distance transport. The main exception to this is marginal pulpwood to a large pulp mill. While the vast majority of the wood supply will be sourced from woodlots much closer to the mill, marginal wood may be carted up to 400 kilometres or more when urgently required. Sawmills and veneer mills are located in all parts of New Zealand. The majority of the logs sawn are unpruned saw logs. Pruned logs are sawn in specialist mills producing high-value solid wood products for the joinery, millwork and furniture industries, or they are processed for the production of veneer, plywood and laminated veneer lumber. Pulpwood is converted to fibre products by pulp mills and by reconstituted board mills such as medium density fibreboard mills and particle board mills. As mentioned earlier, some pulp logs are also turned into chips and exported. What is not shown on this map is the location of many roundwood plants which produce and preservative treat posts for fencing, piles for houses, wharves and bridges, transmission poles, and poles for agricultural, horticultural and construction uses. These roundwood plants process about 1% of New Zealand's total harvest volume. Let's look at export markets now. The export market for logs from New Zealand has existed since the 1950s, and most ports have now specifically developed facilities for log exports. When log market demand is high, there are very few places in New Zealand that are not within economic access of a log export port, especially for higher grade logs. Other than Auckland, most ports are handling more than 500,000 cubic metres of logs per year. Tauranga handles by far the largest log export volume in New Zealand. Whangarei, Gisborne and Napier are other large volume ports in the North Island. Nelson and Port Chalmers in Otago are the largest in the South Island. International trade may affect the timing of harvest and the combination of log products which should be harvested to maximise return to the woodlot owner. New Zealand log exporters are affected by the following trends. International log markets are undergoing rapid changes. For example, Southeast Asia and the USA were once major suppliers of logs to Asian markets, but have faced increasing restrictions due to aspects such as trade restrictions, conservationists' opposition to timber harvesting, and demands for forest values other than timber. Conversely, other regions such as South America, Europe, and Russia are ramping up their log supplies. Export logs are a commodity, and as with all commodities, prices may fluctuate markedly as demand and supply in major markets changes. The range of uses for radiata pine products in export markets is increasing as traditional supplies dwindle. Use of radiata pine for furniture, joinery, windows, doors and mouldings and plywood is increasing. And the range of countries importing logs from New Zealand has grown as the benefits of using sustainably grown plantation timber have been recognised. Global events such as the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 can cause major disruptions to supply chains, demand for timber, and log prices, all of which can impact timing of harvest and the economic returns from harvesting a woodlot. Luckily, the trees keep on growing. Let's look now at comments from a woodlot owner who has successfully marketed and harvested his woodlot.
Well, we started in 1993. It was during that period where the government was suggesting we might want to look after our own superannuation, retirement, and there were several friends who had been interested in forestry, and as a group of us decided to just look into that option of starting a woodlot. Yeah, so it was basically to look after our retirement, which is timely now, because now that I am retired, we've actually got the proceeds coming in.
What went particularly well with the operation as far as you were concerned?
Well, there was a lot of luck, of course, in a lot of these things, because timing-wise, we hit a high level. The prices were good in about sort of January, February, March 2019. So the prices were very good at that time. The weather was dry. It was good weather. As a result, the operation went very smoothly and efficiently, and there were no hold-ups, and the trucks weren't held up for any reason. So the profit was really good. So we couldn't complain about. It's hard to figure out how they could have done a better job, because everything was going right as far as we felt, weather-wise, in terms of market-wise, and the crews that were doing it were working very efficiently. So we ended up getting a really good return that we were very happy with.
This concludes video 2 on how to market and harvest your woodlot for profit. In video 3, we will look at how to determine what is in your woodlot. If you have any questions, please direct these to the email link shown below.